Environment Committee to order for today. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Welcome everyone. I'll start the introductions. I'm Bill Emerson, Lake County Surveyor.
Jen Birchfield. I'm the Natural Resources Planner with NERC. Kathy Luther couldn't be here today. She's at the Brownfields Conference.
Laura Brown, NERC staff.
Brenda Steinenring, City of Gary.
Brian Lissick, Director of Indiana.
Kathy Sippel, Earth Charter, Indiana.
Kathy Baltimore, Coastal Program. Jenny Wurzberg, DNR.
Sorry, Tom Black, Comcom.
Reggie Carthel, Stillwater, MS4.
George Toppel, Union Township Trustee of Porter County.
John Matthews from the Port County Surveyor.
Candace Eklund, NERC.
Michelle Murray, Teresa, Idaho, Northwest Regional Office.
Nicole Messenger, Idaho Northwest Regional Office. Lake Michigan Programs.
Julia Korea with the OMS.
Tom Vanderwood.
All right, well, welcome everyone. A little smaller circle here. Kind of nice. I like it. So we do have our meeting minutes for May 1st that were distributed. We'll get that a chance to look at it. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion to accept them as presented.
Second.
All right, motion second. Any discussion on the minutes? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes are passed unanimously. Anybody sign up for public comment?
No.
All right. We're moving. So next on the agenda, Kathy, you want to go ahead and do the proposed structure?
I think you all know Kathy Sippel, but we'll introduce her. Kathy is with Earth Charter Indiana and among many hats.
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay, before we had it open, right? Oh, I got it. I think I got it.
You can hit escape, like to get out of presentation mode.
Okay. I might need some help.
It's okay.
I'm seeing what I want on the screen, but I don't know how to get it off of.
Oh, no problem.
Sure. Yeah.
So then I just go here.
Perfect.
Okay. Enjoy this.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, again, I'm Kathy Sippel, and I'm with Earth Charter Indiana. For those who don't know, it's a part-time role. It's about 60 hours a month. I also am represented here locally, sometimes as Northwest Indiana Region Resilience. I'll get into that a little bit more. But the program that I am under with Earth Charter Indiana, which as you might imagine is a statewide organization, is called the Resiliency Coordinator Program. And so I have been working in that capacity since 2019. So I'm in, 6 years into it. And when I started, it was like 20 hours a month. And they were like, let's see what you can do to help climate in a whole region. And with your all's help, I can do more. And working with NERC very closely, I'd say Jen and Kathy Luther and I, along with previous resiliency coordinators, we were able to lend some support and fill gaps, right, with the Climate Action Plan and the Greenhouse Gas Coordinator. I'm really happy that last year we added a young woman who some of you may know, Grace DeFoya from Gary. And Grace was recently appointed to GSAC, which if you don't know, that's the Greater Gary Environmental Sustainability and Brenda, help me out. Advisory Committee, is that right? Advisory Council. Yeah, that is a mouthful. And just yesterday, the ink isn't even dry, we hired another young woman from East Chicago, Olympia Gutierrez, who has started a group called Green EC, or Green East Chicago. So I'm really glad that we're expanding our capabilities to help out a bit. Another thing that we do, I want to put in a shameless plug, is we host an annual event called the Climate Leadership Summit, and this is for mayors and city council people and people just like you to attend and find out across the state what are some of the best practices. We were lucky enough to host it here in our region in 2023, and Gary and Nancy, you walked in right on cue. I thought it was really great that we had Nancy Moldenauer and Brenda Scott Henry on a panel that was talking about the importance of having staff support for sustainability and having things like sustainability commissions. So I invited Nancy to speak on behalf of the sustainability commissions. Brenda spoke on behalf of having dedicated staff to support this. And I think at that time we were only able to find one example in the whole state. It was in West Lafayette. It was a both and situation where they had both. And I love that Brenda started saying, well, why don't we have a committee? And I don't know that you put a bug in Mayor Melton's ear or not, or if that just happened independently, but now here we are, Gary has both. And really big shout out to Gary. Gary has also the ambassador program that you started last January. Is that right, Brenda?
Yeah, sometime.
Yeah, and like block clubs. So, I mean, Gary is really, like, I think, just rocking it to have all the support. And then, of course, the representation here at this meeting. And Nancy is now on the city council and is a liaison between the Sustainability Commission that she helped start. So, at these events, it's just great to sort of ask the bigger questions and zoom out. What are people doing statewide? What's working? So I'd love to be able to just do more frequent events like this regionally. And I think that's a little bit what we've been talking about with the, help me out, Jen, what was that, the Smart Cities Tool Book? Or,
The sensible tools.
I don't know why I can't remember that quite right. So yeah, we've already kind of opted in and done some things like that. And as we've mentioned before, we could do more with this meeting space. Since we only meet quarterly, there are months in between where maybe we could do like little mini climate leadership summits. Take a look at this. NWI Region Resilience, just full transparency, I own this domain. I feel like I try to get input from a lot of stakeholders. We started this in 2020 when NERC said, who are you that wants us to do a greenhouse gas inventory regionally? Citizens aren't really our stakeholders directly. So I'd say that we kind of invented this, powered by Earth Charter Indiana, to become something that was more understandable and to give a piece that can connect, I'd say like the grass tops more than the grassroots of the people in the communities who care about environment and be a bridge to this group. Because there's a lot of people here, but a lot of people who aren't here that I think we could be communicating with a bit better. So from the top page, this is what you'll see if you go to the front page. I didn't think to put a QR code up there, but if you're interested, it's nwiregionresilience.org, hopefully pretty easy to find. There's different things that people in this room do to support. Nancy Moldenauer has been running Green Drinks for a very long time. That's a great program. And we just brought all these programs kind of under this general umbrella of resilience. But the most important thing that I wanted to talk about today that I think is related to what we've talked about here, how to get more people here, how to get the right people here, how to get the information talked about and these tools into the communities that are starting to form, sustainability commissions and citizen groups. So I'm really excited. If you go to the pull-down menu at the top of nwiregionresilience.org under local efforts, you will see a whole list of local groups that are dedicated to sustainability. If anybody sees any that are missing, I'd love to know about them and update it and add it. I was just celebrating, talking with people beforehand, that just this year, Valparaiso, where I live, has created an environmental advisory board. Munster, as I understand, just a few years ago, created their own. And who am I forgetting? Oh, Chesterton, just a couple months ago, started a sustainability commission. So when I started with this, it really was Michigan City was just about the only one. And then Brenda, of course, has had her dedicated staff on it, but now if you scroll down on this page, it's almost weirder to not have somebody there. And there's a disclaimer at the bottom of this page. If this was live, I could show you. I don't claim credit. We don't claim credit for the development or any official organization. I'm just trying to, archive, celebrate, curate, so that people in your communities, let's say they're new to the area or they move from one community to another, how can they find how to plug in, share their expertise, get involved? Hopefully this will help. So rather than trying to say that I know exactly what we should do, I'm just kind of putting myself out there as willing to provide some administrative support for NERC because I know Kathy and Jen are so busy. And I feel like that's kind of what Earth Charter Indiana pays me for, is just to figure out what are the gaps that you can help fill. And so I'm putting this survey out there, probably not so much to be filled out by the people who are here, but hopefully by the people who aren't here, who can't make it to this meeting for whatever reason, or, if I and some of you have connections to some of those cities and groups listed on the previous page, to find out more about what do they need. I'm not suggesting that NERC changes their rules and makes them voting members of this group, but as the regional kind of entity that deals with environment and climate, like I'm just so glad Jen's going to be talking about the climate action plan today. How can we improve the connection for people who would value this meeting and or getting them to workshops in between times? What is it that they need? Jen and Kathy have said they're willing to go to these meetings and do kind of a traveling roadshow. I am willing to do that as well. Did I see a question? I saw two hands. I think I saw George and then Reggie.
Go ahead, Jim.
Me first?
Yeah, you first. I'll let you answer. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. In recent times, we've had people moving in from other areas that don't understand about rural areas and invasive species. And it's become, it's always been a problem, but it's an increasing problem. And the unincorporated areas don't have the resources to be able to go out and say, hey, this is what it is, and explain all that stuff with other things that we have to do. So that is a concern not only for my township, but also the others, in particular those that don't have a city or a town that they can lean on for additional assistance.
Yeah, I know we talked, I think, last time, which has now been 3 months ago, about getting together, and we haven't done that. So I would like to renew that commitment to getting together. I was just telling Ryan before we started, I don't claim to be the expert in all of these. I'd say my expertise really lies more in my networking and knowing the expert to bring in, I'm not the expert on that. I know
there's a Master Gardener class coming up in Lake County, and in the spring there's going to be one in Porter, and I'm signing up for it so I can understand better, because among the other duties of the trustees, we don't know all the things.
Yeah, and there's also a group called PLANT, if you're not aware of it. Do you know about PLANT? It's Porter LaPorte Advancing Natives Team. So the flip side of the Advancing Natives is controlling the invasives. So you're in Valparaiso, you're in Union Township, that would be a great group for you to know about, and definitely talk a little bit more offline. But this is the point, is what you have and you want is maybe not what East Chicago needs, or maybe they do, I don't know. But when we did this regional climate action plan, it's great, but we realized to get this embedded in communities, it takes local support and local willingness, and in a lot of cases expertise, to know how to translate these big goals of becoming carbon neutral by 2050. Is that right? As a region, obviously NERC can help with some of that, but I guess I'm just here to suggest a way to find out what your needs are, and being willing to be like that telephone operator to put people together and try to form support circles for you.
Yeah, if I could give one example, there was a lady that bought about 38 acres on a former horse ranch, and she thought that she would turn her cash profit into invasive species because she thought it was hay. And the farmers all surrounding were very upset. And when I put the 48-hour notice delivered it to her, actually her father, I got a call, and she was panicking because she doesn't understand what it is, and quite frankly, I don't know all the invasive species, but I do find out from the farmers that.
Can we make a commitment to actually get together and talk about that? Because I do have
sure.
ideas.
But
Yeah.
I think it's just an example of,
Yeah.
with people coming in and not understanding what it is. It's getting
100%.
to be a bigger issue.
Yeah, I know Reggie had a hand up before. Can I take one more question? Yeah, Reggie?
One of the things that you need to get on your radar is the NICEWI group.
Yeah.
That's the Northwest Indiana Stormwater Advisory Group. Those are the 47 entities that are permitted under a stormwater general permit. And we meet the first Tuesday of the month at different municipalities. And the key now is coming from EPA and from the state is whatever you do it on a watershed basis. DNR is looking at focusing on watershed. IDEM is looking at watershed. So when you're doing water quality attainment in your area, you're doing it for your watershed. So we're going to try to teach the municipalities how to do that. So as you want to bring this in, there isn't a better time where you can reach. Tuesday we were out in Dyer. We had almost 60 representatives plus elected officials that came to watch the presentation, find out what's going on. It's the best place to disseminate information to municipalities. And it is a tool that you need to pay attention to.
Can I just say, because of you, Reggie, in these meetings, it's definitely on my radar, but I don't feel like when it's talked about just in the air, it ends up on a calendar, it ends up as a resource. And so I guess what I'm trying to do is just ground these things that we hear about with, out of those things that you just said, how can I embed a link on the page on, the local efforts guide, so that people interested in water quality within these areas could get right to that, right? Or to find out when is the Dyer meeting, when is the whatever meeting. So I'm willing to do that work. I mean, this doesn't sound a lot like environmental, but I know everybody's tapped out and you're all experts. So if I can kind of provide extra administrative support really, and just doing the research, and I'm not hoping not to just make it a static website, but to look for patterns and hopefully maybe do frequent updates if we have something interesting that comes out of this survey result. And just back to the survey, again, I kind of know who most of you are, and I probably know what your answers would be. But Reggie, if you could still fill it out and give me the link, to the thing that you're talking about,
Sure.
That would be super helpful.
One of the things I've found, I've been to 2 or 3 meetings now on the formation of sustainability committees. And when people come in to volunteer to serve, the first question that comes out is, what do we do?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Why are we here?
Yeah.
And so when you look at the big picture, you explain, we have a Coffee Creek watershed plan. I was in a meeting the other day, no one had ever seen it. So it's not being used. So now IDEM and DNR are looking at getting these watershed plans out there. So helping people, because if they know what is expected of them, they will be more inclined to be on your committees and participate.
If you don't mind, some of you didn't know I was maybe going to be bringing you into this conversation, but I want to make sure I have your name correct. Is it Thomas?
Yeah,
Okay, we were talking about Highland, and I asked before we started, hey, I'm pretty familiar with the Highland Neighbors for Sustainability, and Connie just walked in not too long ago. She's in the back now. And I said, how is that going? It's my understanding they had kind of a provisional status some years ago to be, a sustainability committee. It's a neighbor, really like a neighbor group, not officially appointed by the city or town. And I was very pleased to hear after I went to the Valparaiso Environmental Advisory Board that one of the women there said she was meeting with Nancy. Are you meeting with Maureen? Okay. And I'm like, that's great, because Nancy has grounded what they're doing very clearly in what they're about. And Nancy was part of the original group that got a climate fellow to come in that did, the greenhouse gas inventory. And it felt like they were really oriented around that. Both things happened simultaneously. But to your point, Reggie, when people just get nominated and they pop onto a board and they don't know where these documents exist or what the blueprint is, I have seen that a lot, kind of struggling with the why are we here? And that is, again, not my expertise that I can say I know how to fix it. I was literally talking with a 9-year-old last night to tell her about the challenge and the words I hope to bring to you tonight, or today, excuse me, and she said, well, don't some of the people from the city over here want to meet with the city over here? Wouldn't that be helpful? Could they help each other? I'm like, out of the mouths of babes, yes. You know, and in fact, Nancy already is doing that in Michigan City to Valparaiso, and Nancy came to Highland to give testimony when they were trying to get the thing started. So this effort right here is just really more a documentation of the willingness and the desire to connect with like a sister city, if you will, you know, one-on-one, or something more official, you know, maybe Lake County decides that it wants to meet outside of this meeting to share best practices with things that are Lake County, or things to George's point that some things are more rural county. But I'm just willing to kind of do the mapping work and plain, you know, connector to say, hey, you're in luck, Westville, you know, you have this issue, and you know, somebody else over here has got the solution or is willing to sit with you and talk you through what getting that grant looks like. So I've probably gone over my time already, but if you want to take a QR code, or I think these will be sent out in the notes, will it, Jen? Or will it for?
Will we be able to send this?
I can do that.
The slides, okay. So I tried to make a memorable, shortened link. It's NERC ENV is environment, and then 2025. It would take all the good links ever for NERC, but you know, limiting it by the year. I'm going to be sharing this on social, and I see now my QR code is a little cut off, which is unfortunate. So I don't know if it actually works with the bottom cut off. But anyway, we'll get that out to you. I'll be sharing it. But my target audience for this really is these emergent groups, and instead of trying to go further than we can today, just looking at what is it that you want. I think I know what wants to happen, but letting you tell me what wants to emerge, and I'll take those baby steps, and then maybe at a follow-up meeting, we could suggest an improved structure based on people's input. So I think that's it. I just want to say, you know, thanks for having me. This is my contact info, not very official, just a Gmail address, but I'm very approachable. I am willing to meet with anybody one-on-one or take a phone call one-on-one. But any other questions before I sit down?
I just had a comment, and the greenhouse gas inventory, like how that came about with the community and the counties here. That was so cool. That was one of the coolest things I've seen here at NERC since I've been here. It's totally from the ground up, and it shows that I think NERC is responsive to that kind of stuff too. Like, we weren't saying, okay, yeah, go to public comment, we'll listen to you. It was really a group effort, and it really worked out well. A lot of people I talk to, like county level, just don't think the government's responsive and it won't do things like that. And we showed that it could be done. I think it was really, really well done. So I'm going to give everyone a lot of credit for that.
One of the things we learned.
Wait, I'm not done. Reggie, hold on. So my other comment was when you mentioned having these sustainability commissions have a vote at the environment committee, I'd be open to that. I think that's.
And I actually didn't suggest that because I know there are certain rules in place. I was thinking just, you know, keep your existing structure, but have this overlay structure, you know, so that somebody from the community group would be represented to take what happens here back there. If that were to develop, that would be outstanding, but I don't know that that's possible.
And we have been in conversations, I will say. Kathy Luther couldn't be here today, but I know that you and her have been in some conversations, and she's been in conversations with Ty and others at NERC. I don't know the ins and outs of how
I think it'd be
committees
great.
are appointed.
I mean, that's just my first thought.
But there are some discussions about how do we ensure that, you know, there are people who do come to these meetings who are not officially voting members, who maybe their community does not regularly send their official person. So I'll just leave it at that there are some conversations about how we encourage active participation.
Can I interject one response before we go to the next?
Yes.
You know, Nancy is the person who links already those two, so that's great. If Nancy can't make it though, then there's no double link, right? You know, Brenda is the sustainability, you know, hired staff So she's obviously the great person from Gary. If, like in Valparaiso, is there anybody from Valparaiso today? I mean, I'm not government, so if the regular person who's supposed to be here from Valparaiso can't be here, then Ellen Capitan, who was here last time, she is both on the city council and the environmental advisory board. So maybe when those terms are renewed, or appointing a backup or a double link, something like that, just to have that two-way communication. And I'm really hoping that within the cities or towns, they are communicating. I was really glad to hear about in Highland, at least from this gentleman's feedback, that he thinks it's going well, that they are having good communications. But a lot of this is new and emerging. So I'm just looking for what are the patterns that we can learn somewhere and then do what's successful and share it. And Nancy, you've been very patient.
No, that's okay. The guidance I give to everybody that comes to me saying we don't know what we're supposed to be doing, there's in the document that was drawn up, either an ordinance or a charter or something that established that commission or advisory group. Go to that. The other thing, projects should come directly from what the greenhouse gas emission study said. In Michigan City, we picked our top 3. So anytime we talk about doing anything, it's like, is it related to one of those 3? If it is, we can explore it further. If it's not, it's made, we don't do that. So that really gives all of these groups a structure to work by and off of. So that's my recommendation to everybody that's trying to do anything. Go back to that governance doctrine, go back to your greenhouse gas emissions. And I'm surprised how many people I talk to that have no idea that the greenhouse gas emission even exists.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, find that.
I would
Whoever
agree.
has it, find
And I
it.
think in one of NERC's website updates, the old document that had all the individual cities somehow was like dumped or something, because it said Munster's should be on page 38, and then there was no page 38 in that document. So I have made Kathy Luther aware of that. I think she was going to try to, she said it's just as simple as re-uploading the document. But
And our website did transition, so
okay. So I hope it was okay. I was like, I have an old file. I'll sneak it to you. But so again, I'm willing to be the helper outer and just go into the archives and do that. But yeah, if we can just get better at sharing what already has been done, it took a lot of work, and that is really nice to hear, Bill, that you would experience that as a positive.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of it being like angry citizens, they were citizens that really were willing to help, and they're like, okay, we didn't know we weren't your people, but we'll go and we'll find the bridge, and we'll go before our town council, get a letter of support, So just not saying it's not the right thing, but just asking how do we do it, and we push past it and we get it done. So I thought that was very empowering as well. I was really proud of all the people involved. Thank you. I'm sure I've gone over time at this point, but are there any other burning questions?
Did you want to? Yeah, sorry.
Well, I just said that we need to bring this out at one of the NICE meetings. There are a lot of communities that have new people in charge that have never even seen the greenhouse gas document. So, and based on what Item said on Tuesday, we're looking at every entity being included in the permitting process. It's not based on population anymore, it's going to be based on eruption.
And we'll say too, like greenhouse gases, obviously that kind of goes to air quality, and Reggie's talking, watershed. I think it's really both and, so having both of those lenses to look through seems to make a whole lot of sense. So again, I'm willing to do the mapping. I didn't expect to come fully formed with an idea here, but just hopefully ask everybody in this room, all of you are smarter than me, but if I get all of your collected wisdom, I think I could come back with something, that looks a little bit more like reflective of what you've all got in mind, and we go from there with the next one. Is that kind of what I promised I would talk about, Jen?
Yes.
Did I go off the
And
rails?
you didn't go off.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
Well, again, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. So next, Jen's going to speak about the community climate impacts and priorities for the climate action plan for the Chicago metropolitan area. Jen.
Good morning. so up next, I think many of you have already heard in previous meetings about work underway. This ties into Kathy's presentation, I think, as well, to develop a comprehensive climate action plan for the greater Chicago metropolitan area, which of course includes Northwest Indiana. NERC has been partnering with CMAP, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, as well as the Mayor's Caucus and several other partners on this initiative to develop a CCAP, a comprehensive climate action plan. There we go. So what we'd like to do today, of course, we've already welcomed you. We'd like to talk just a little bit about the plan, why we're here. We'd like to have some open discussion with you, and this isn't something where we only want voting members. In fact, if anyone wants to move up to the main table, we're going to have a little discussion, and we want input from everybody in the room. And then we're going to go through an exercise on priorities around climate action. So we're going to talk about the co-benefits, which of those are priorities. We're going to talk about in our communities, and we have a great wealth of different community expertise here. We're going to talk about how climate change is impacting our communities. And then we'll wrap up. So I'd like to just, and you guys, just so you're aware, we were provided this wonderful workshop in a box. It's really more of a workshop on a flash drive at this point, right? Or on a Google Drive. So if I sound too scripted, it's because they provided me with a wonderful script. So I'd like for us all to assume good intentions from everyone. I think we're all a pretty good group with good intentions. Be open to everyone's experiences and feedback. This is for us to get information from you on your experiences. There are no wrong answers. And provide space for everyone to speak. And speak up if you're one that tends to be quieter. So just a little bit about the plan that is being developed. So this was a grant that was received. Let me go back to my script here. This was a grant from the Climate Pollution Reduction Grants from the US EPA. These funds were given to states and metropolitan areas across the country to significantly reduce emissions. So the plan is being developed by CMAP, as I mentioned, the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, and NERC. We have several other partners involved. So the project team is engaging public, private, and nonprofit organizations from across the region to develop this plan. And I think some of you who are here in the room are actually on one of the working groups for developing that plan or the overall steering committee. So we thank you for that. We have a lot of expertise, and we're working to make sure that Northwest Indiana is represented in this planning. The area covered by this plan includes 13 counties, 9.5 million people, and 358 municipalities. We did make a change at the beginning of the project to include LaPorte County. I believe that originally it was supposed to be that one of the counties to the south was included. Didn't have as much interest from them, not as much population, so we advocated for LaPorte County being added. Let's see. So what is the plan? The goal is to outline how we can reach net zero emissions by 2050. There are interim targets between now and then. We'll also outline what is necessary to achieve that goal of net zero. We want this to become a tool to promote action by public, private, and nonprofit sectors, and also to become a tool to help inform long-range planning by CMAP as well as NERC. So this is not going to be a very technical presentation. I think Kathy has given, I leave the technical climate emissions presentations to Kathy Luther, who couldn't be here today. This is not a very technical presentation. I think we've shared some of that in the past, and we will be updating you in the future as the plan develops with that technical information. But just generally, in our region, this is showing just where emissions come from. In my script, it actually said, you're probably thinking that it's all from transportation, but it's actually industry. I think you guys know that in our specific region, especially in Northwest Indiana, a lot of the emissions do come from industry. Buildings are next at 35%, and then transportation at 26%. So they're, yes?
Just, what do you mean by buildings? Like, just like.
Yeah, buildings, so that could be, and I can look at my script to make sure that I'm being accurate, but that could be residential buildings, that could be commercial buildings. So it's emissions from energy, use in buildings.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, I don't be overthinking it, that happens, but like, is it like secondary emissions then? Is it like the emissions from like the energy produced to like heat and cool them, or is it like actually what people are doing in them, or?
I believe it's the energy to heat and cool.
Interesting.
Heat and cool and
I
water.
feel like that hides a little bit, but okay.
Okay.
Do you know what I
It's-
mean? It like
yeah,
hides
it's-
a little bit that it's like energy production is the.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I've had the same thoughts of like, where does industry fall versus generation? So I've had the same thoughts. I can follow up with you to give more information. I think Kathy, as well as the CMAP team, have their minds around the very technical details of how things play out a little bit more.
So on this greenhouse gas inventory that was completed, did they look at community-wide, and then it was just at the municipal level, or maybe at the governmental level?
I'm not sure that they got down, like, separated things out by municipality. I know that they did by county, for sure. So there are breakdowns available. And we will bring them in to give a final presentation. But I believe that, I don't know that they went to the municipal level, because that would be like 350, whatever it
What I'm
was.
saying is, in order to say buildings, they had to look at the consumption of certain types of structures.
Yes.
Did they look at government, or did they just look at?
I see.
So when you're including buildings, we did both the community-wide greenhouse gas inventory, and then we did the municipal greenhouse gas inventory. So we looked at ourselves, how do we consume energy, and then we looked at citywide, what are the uses that will cause emissions.
Okay.
So because a lot of buildings are old and are not very energy efficient, then you will have those that are consuming a lot of energy to function.
Yes.
Or the practices that we use will cause.
And to answer that question, I do believe at that level, I think I misunderstood your original question. At that level of looking at the different types of buildings, is this a municipal institutional building? Is this a wastewater treatment facility?
Is
this a residence? Is this a hospital?
Yeah.
I believe that those factors were considered.
Yeah. Because they have to look at utility bills, how you're consuming.
Yes. Yeah, great question. So some strategies for reducing emissions potentially are electric vehicles, building electrification, transit, walking and biking, renewable energy, carbon removal, and clean industry practices. So we'd like to talk today about what strategies should be prioritized. The project team has identified several strategies for reducing greenhouse gases. We can't implement everything all at once. But through engagement efforts like these workshops and the public survey that some of you hopefully saw, the plan will prioritize ways that the region can take action to reduce and offset emissions. We'll talk later about ways that we can take action as individuals. That's another component. But the plan is primarily focused on ways that government and the private sector can shift their policies to create large-scale change. How can this work address existing needs? So these are some of the kind of co-benefits that go along with climate action, reducing greenhouse gases. These are some examples from Chicago's Climate Action Plan. Improved air quality, health benefits from cleaner air, reduced energy costs, improved housing quality, comfort, and safety, better access to transportation alternatives, new job opportunities, and reduced risk of extreme weather. And we'll talk about this a bit more in the priority exercise. So why are we here? I think I've already mentioned that NERC is working with CMAP and the Mayor's Caucus to develop a new CCAP for the Chicago metro area. I do want to note, that following Kathy's presentation and some of the comments that she received, we are building upon the greenhouse gas inventory that was completed. We're building upon Climate Action Northwest Indiana work that has been completed, as well as the NWI 2050 includes a chapter on climate. So we're working to kind of build these things together into one plan as part of this project. I want to pause. Are there any questions before we move on to kind of the next activity? Okay, so why are we here? Continuing with that. There was a public survey, as I mentioned. That's largely been closed, but if you haven't completed it, you still could using that QR code or going to the CMAP website that's listed there. There have been several of these in-person meetings with this meeting in a box or meeting on a Google Drive. The Calumet Collaborative hosted one on July 31st in Gary in Lake County. We are, of course, here today asking for feedback from the Environment Committee. And we do have one scheduled held by NERC August 14th at the LaPorte County, it says LaPorte, it's not LaPorte, it's LaPorte County Visitor Center. That will be from 2:30 to 4. So I'll be getting a notice out to all of you about that very soon. We appreciate any help spreading the word about that workshop, as well as the public survey. I mean, I think they're kind of concluding it, but if anyone has any last thoughts, I think it would be worthwhile to share those. More technical details, like I said, will be discussed at a later meeting. We promise you guys will be the first to know when the draft plan is out. But today we're really gathering input on community impacts, barriers, and priorities.
What time in LaPorte?
2:30 to 4 at the Visitor Center.
What's the address? What is the address?
You know what? I don't have it off the top of my head.
Whereabouts?
It's in the old Marquette Mall on Franklin.
Franklin and Highway 20.
Franklin and Highway 20. Yep. Okay. So with that, we'd like to get into a discussion with all of you. And again, I encourage anyone to come up to the table. I can even pull some more chairs up. It's great to have a full room. I'd like to we're not voting on anything today. This is just to get your input. Come on. You can even move my coffee. Your coffee's fine. So the first question that we have for you is, this should just be an open discussion. If you're not comfortable sharing your thoughts, you can jot them down and give them to me afterwards. We'll also have a survey later as well. How have you seen the effects of climate change in our community? And I know some of you are here in a professional role, but you're also community members, so you can share your perspective from either perspectives.
So
Yes.
the extreme heat certainly, in combination with high humidity. That's been really hard on people who are older, as I am. Affects breathing. That has been a hard thing for me personally. And of course, the flooding. We've had, I think, what they call 3 floods of record in my lifetime. One was in 1954, and this is according to the Lake County, Northwest Indiana, Little Calumet River Basin Commission. That's on their website. 1954, and then 1990 in Highland, in 2008 in Munster and other communities. Those are listed sometimes as 100-year floods or 500-year floods, but they're happening more often. So the flooding certainly is an effect in our region and in my community of Highland.
Thank you. Nancy?
The thing I've noticed is a trend that we have, I think, I haven't been able to do tick marks, we have more, there used to be air quality alerts, they call them air quality action days. It just seems like we have more of those than we don't have those. And it's just like everybody's gotten used to it. You know, it's like this is the new normal. And if we just look back a few years, the exception was the air quality alert or action days.
I think we're in one of those days right now.
It's been most of this week.
Yeah, and I send those out from NERC, the alerts that I get from IDEM, and I've sent a lot of those this last year. Thank you, Nancy.
I was just wondering if we're getting more of those now because our technology is better to identify that sort of thing too. Because I remember back in the 50s, we used to get floods when I lived in Michigan. Kalamazoo River would flood and our basement would be flooded. We'd have all kinds of problems, and then we went through a series of hot days, and then it got global cooling and global warming. And I think climate changes, and I'm not sure how much knowledge we really understand about where we have a lot of information back for 100 years or 200 years, but the Earth's been around a lot longer than that. So, of course, we have glaciers and all that sort of thing. So I think it does change, but what is really the overall picture, I don't know. Something to consider.
Any other thoughts? Feel free to speak up. How have you seen? Yeah, Kevin.
Well, it's really micro level. I have fruit trees in my backyard, and there are some years I have a bumper crop of peaches. Some years I've literally had 0 peaches because it froze, unseasonably, late, and all the blossoms, were destroyed before they ever had a chance to become peaches. So that's just my backyard. Obviously, I'm not using that to feed my family, but for farmers and people who are actually depending on this as a livelihood, or who are depending to feed their families, that's really hard to manage for, especially on a large scale.
I had some of those years too. I had peach trees too, and I had a bumper crop this year.
So not something that I'm directly familiar with, and I'm probably going to throw Jenny on the spot for this, is that I know that a lot of the conversations that occur in our Lake Michigan Working Group partnership is that we're getting less shelf ice on the lake, and that has a huge amount of impacts, broad, wide impacts and small impacts. And go ahead, Jenny, talk more about that, more shelf ice on the lake. But it is something.
There will be a study coming out from USGS that's measuring the shelf ice and the impacts on some coastal hazards and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely something that is noticeable for anyone, but actually measuring it, we should get some real data here in the next year. But yeah, that has all kinds of evapotranspiration and shoreline erosion implications.
And habitat, fish stuff, potentially, right? Like, I think is...
Possibly. Not sure about that one.
we've seen a significant change in our public education and outreach. We are not getting the message to the people. We used to have, it all adds up to cleaner air action days. People knew exactly what to do. Last month we did a quiz. 3 of us went to local gas stations and asked them, what do you do? Got people pull up, what do you do on Ozone Action Day? And we heard, don't fill up your tank, don't cut your grass, all of these steps. And then we said, what do you do to protect the water? And they stood there and looked at us like we didn't know what we were talking about. So whether it's the internet, whether it's a new process, people are not getting the information. And when we talk about health impacts, impacts to food access, to our areas that get flooded, and just was working with Munster on this, we gotta get the message out, and we're not. And I worry about, and Item's message on Tuesday was they want to see more social media. They want to see more interaction on the website and looking at more of the water quality stuff where people can access it. But that's not the only way people access information, and I think we're missing out somehow.
Any other thoughts on the effects of climate change in your community? Yes.
I think vector diseases are on the rise. And so, for example, Lyme disease, the way it's affected by climate change is that warming winters don't kill off as many ticks as a harsher winter would. So more ticks survive over the winter, and so we have a growing population of ticks. And I know, at least 5 people who have Lyme disease.
It's great feedback, guys. Any other thoughts before we begin?
I mean, I know you're well aware of just the impacts of in urban centers of like less tree cover and the discrepancies of tree cover between older and wealthier neighborhoods, more established neighborhoods, and lower income neighborhoods, and how that just affects like the impacts of that are really kind of surprising, right? Like mental health and obviously, financial impacts of heating or cooling your home, and not having the combination of that and not having good transport routes where you're walking down these like baking hot sidewalks to your job or whatever, and there's no tree cover, and just how freaking terrible that is. So I saw some of that when we were working on, the tree program in Michigan City.
Any other effects of climate change that anyone would like to share before we move on to the next question? Okay, this is great, guys. This is a great group to gather community knowledge. Next question is, how has climate change impacted your ability to live comfortably? I think we may have touched on some of this in the last question. So examples there: financial burdens from flood repair and mitigation, increased energy costs, health impacts from worsening air quality, and food access.
I used to be able to go without air conditioning for much of the summer and just put it on for, those extreme heat days, but no longer have to have air conditioning most of the summer. Not only because of the heat, but because of allergies. There's more allergens in the air, but also, so that leads to increased energy costs. The NIPSCO bills are just so expensive.
I notice my allergies are worse, but I don't know if that's me aging. Great. And any other thoughts? Yes, Nancy.
I'm not getting in as much exercise, like outdoor walking and hiking and stuff, because I have a 90-year-old neighbor who graciously every morning tells me when the air quality or the action day has been announced. And when it's beautiful like this outside, I just can't get myself to go to the neighborhood mall and walk there. So I know that that's affected a lot of people, that they've curtailed outdoor activities, you know, whether it's for enjoyment or it's for health reasons. And, you know, and I do have allergies, you know, they're worse, you know, by the air quality, absolutely, you know.
Know that
I don't have chronic illness around that, but I find myself coughing more, my throat is burning. You know, that's due to the Canadian wildfires or whatever. Our air quality really hits the pits.
I hear you. Girl Scout camp was pretty brutal this year. Degrees.
Yeah.
Brenda?
So definitely increase in cost for cleanup after the severe wet weather events. So the storm comes quick, fast, hard, and then you're left with a lot of cost for cleanup. So our cleanup this year for the city, I would just say, is due to not being able to manage the cost with trees. So the wind blows, branches are breaking, lack of tree maintenance contributes to that, but at the same time, the responsibility falls on the city. And after those severe events, you know, the citizens are crying out for help and we have to intervene. So increased costs.
Did I see your hand, Jenny, or was that you were just saying yes?
Just
folks.
I think that climate change is affecting our ability for leisure and vacations. So, you know, I just came back from the Grand Canyon, and there was a fire on the North Rim that actually burned down the lodge on the North Rim, where vacationers who were staying there had to be evacuated in the middle of the night. And we had our reservations on the South Rim Lodge, one of the South Rim lodges, but there was, you could see the fire, you know, across the canyon. All the trails were closed, except for one that was an abbreviated trail. You had to turn back at a certain point. And also, although the air quality wasn't affected the first few days, then the wind shifted and was bringing the smoke into the canyon. So the smoke was all lying in the canyon, but also we could smell it on the South Rim, so the air quality was affected. We took Amtrak, and the train was delayed partly because the extreme heat was affecting the tracks, but also there were flash floods in, I don't know if it was New Mexico or Arizona. So the train was delayed by hours, like 6 hours. So I know someone who was vacationing in Hawaii when that, was it a fire happened? Was it 2 years ago? He and his family had to escape their hotel room and walk into the ocean to escape that terrible fire. I forget which island it was on.
It was on Maui.
Wow. So people are, you know, how many times are people making vacation plans and some traumatic climate catastrophe happens and your plans are just ruined.
Nancy?
I've also noticed an increase in the number of severe storms, thunderstorms with significant winds associated with those. And I know Michigan City hasn't had any tornadoes, so to speak, but we've had these severe events and that have come through. And that results in a lot of personal property damage, corporate property damage, and then the lost work time that goes along with that if the facility has to shut down for repairs. I haven't been keeping track of reports so far. Have you had a touchdown over there this year?
I don't think so. Maybe a little bit south of the city at one early in the
LaPorte
season.
County is definitely being affected by that for the South Bay County. But there's an increase in these, weather events, and they happen more often than I remember just 2 decades ago.
I saw Brenda's hand. I know
Yeah,
Gary,
we
you
had
guys have.
we did something called a climate primer, which is looking at wind conditions to determine what you should prepare for climate resiliency, right? And so, of course, we work with the Environmental Resilience Institute and have a fellow to help do that, prepare that document for us. But we always consider wet weather because we have floods, air quality is poor because we're not a tame area, but we never factored in wind. Now, wind is not new because we right by the windy city, right? But wind has wind in the spring, in the summer has been causing a problem, right? And it was resulting in these. They're not always tornadoes, but they're definitely stronger winds that are causing the trees to snap over.
I think they call them wind shears sometimes.
We didn't even factor that into our study. And so when, now we need to go back to our climate primer and then start considering wind conditions that we'll have to back.
Michigan City's been a mess this summer just with the number of trees that are falling down over the public areas. We didn't budget for that many trees.
Right.
For this year.
Budget for it. So now we have to include that in our city budget. Tree maintenance.
Like most of this has been said, but an anecdotal story that ties what's been said together. It was literally with our climate intern for Earth Charter Indiana. It was Valparaiso, a high school student. She had set up a really well-organized climate bee to engage youth at the Valpo Library. We were all set up. The weather was fine when I arrived. And literally, like a half hour later, there was blackout conditions, crackling of the transformer across the street, power lines down, what they're talking about, the wind events, the trees down. Like, so we didn't have the event. We ended up being in the basement of the Valpo Library with no lights and just flashlights. Finally, when we were allowed to drive home, trees were closing off my route, and I only lived like 3 miles from the library, having to drive around. So yeah, it's just very ironic trying to do an event about climate was shut down because of climate, And at home, my power didn't come back for like a day, and I'm a consultant that has to work on the internet a lot, and so yeah, just the downtime, the utilities out, all that.
Increased grid damage. It's been unbelievable this summer.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Increased grid damage. It's been unbelievable this summer. And, our neighbors call me up, we have power, we have solar panels, with battery backup, so we always have electricity. But it's been very frequent this summer. And like Kathy said, it affects business, it affects health if people are on oxygen machines, there's life-saving
I have a question
life-saving
about,
equipment and things like that. So,
I have a question about
will you
the
let me
grid.
finish, please?
I'm sorry?
I'm just asking you to let me finish.
Yes,
That's
please
all.
continue.
So, and that also affects our healthcare providers, because then they're having to be concerned about the people they're serving and make additional visits. So I think it's this trickle-down effect that really affects a lot of different organizations that we're not even thinking about.
George?
Hey, I have a question about the grid, and I know we have a couple of surveyors in the panel here, so is
I'm
it?
not an electrical expert.
Huh?
I'm not an electrical expert, but
Well, the question I have is, for so many years, wasn't the grid neglected in as far as providing all the additional support for all additional electrical needs that we have? And I think, Ryan, you might be able to address that too, because electric cars, more cell phones, TVs, more power in everybody's homes. And I don't know if the grid has been able to keep up with that, and it's been getting older and older, and has, I don't know the answer to that, but I thought maybe somebody here might. Those are some of the concerns that I've had.
So, one of the things that has transpired throughout, say, the last 50 or 60 years, that you start looking at a population growth, you start looking at all the different technologies that are required to increase that base load demand from a utility perspective. And so with the advent of, gosh, it started back with the television first coming online, then home air conditioning, and a laptop or personal computers, and then now cell phones. Everything that we have requires electric. And as that base load continues to increase, how does the grid respond to those during different demands? And the utility that we have, NIPSCO, there's not excess fees during those high demand periods, but other utilities basically triple your kilowatt hour usage rate during those times. So
I'm going to show you my most recent bill from NIPSCO. I think they need to do that.
But I mean, that's a great talk about all these different grid issues. I'm a data nerd. I was looking at, I track all my NIPSCO bills and payments. My year over year, from June to last year to this year, it's increased by 4 cents per kilowatt. That's huge, right? And so basically, we need to be able to increase that base load, and the only way to do it from a technological perspective is reducing your demand at your location or renewable energy at your location. Renewable energy as being like grid tied is not going to ultimately going from a utility size solar or wind power. That's not going to affect the base load, but you need to look at your own ways that you can reduce your load and demand at your facilities and at your communities, because that's what's really going to help. There's a lot of ways you can do that, but at the end of the day, there's these different data centers that are coming online. These are a huge demand to electric. Those are going to be, the ratepayers' expense. So it's interesting that you bring it up, but obviously I think the technology has moved too fast for the utilities to react.
And the technology, for example, of TVs going away from cables and going into AI, that's going to increase the demand even more.
Absolutely.
So everybody wants it and everybody wants to use it, but we have to have the resources somehow.
Yeah, the tension I've seen is the utilities, of course, want to hold on to all of the electricity production. So they're generating revenue, they're making profits. And in the state of Indiana, we're not allowed to do community-based solar. So it's like solutions that are available legally, communities aren't able to move forward and do that. So we do have a real problem here in Indiana. We can do it individually in our residents, or we can do it at, small and larger businesses, but there's not that ability to share clean energy that's being generated, at a middle-sized facility, can I say that? So that's a big issue, and that is contributing to climate change. It definitely is.
And I know that a lot of people do not want it in their area, whatever it is.
Tom has the floor.
I think one thing we do need to realize is the negative effect of forced compliance. Right now, we are experiencing, like you said, his bill has increased, everyone's bill is increased substantially from NIPSCO. And even in their statement, they admitted that was due to transition to green energy that will force by 2030. And instead of taking a balanced approach, including natural gas in that transition, we're looking going straight solar, straight wind, and this is causing NIPSCO to raise its rates. And, I mean, granted, part of it is to maintain the infrastructure. The infrastructure has been neglected for some time and hasn't kept up with the increase in technology. But still, right now they're also looking at another increase by wind farm. And again, so we're looking at another increase, and this is impacting people of lesser means. We're looking at senior citizens that might get a 2 or 3% increase in their COLA every year on Social Security, but that COLA figure does not include the cost of energy. So I think we need to take a look and maybe consider a balanced approach. Again, maybe that's bringing on nuclear energy, continuing with natural gas until things are ready to use an all of the above.
Speaking of NIPSCO bills, as a trustee, that's one of the things that is a major draw on our resources for what used to be called poor relief, now it's called community assistance. With the bills, people are struggling to pay those bills, and in some cases they've jumped because they're on an economy plan. Some of them have bumps of $800 in 1 month, and that's just astronomical for a lot of people. I don't know what the adjustments are because we often work with NIPSCO to try to put them on some kind of different plan to take care of it, but a lot of people, wait till they get their cutoff notice, and that causes a lot of problems. And particularly right now, I'm expecting an explosion of people coming to the office asking for help.
Yeah, last year when our furnace died on the coldest week of the month, or the year, excuse me, I took the big step to get a heat pump, and that really only helps you to completely electrify if you also have renewable power. So right now I've got like higher energy bills because taking it off of the natural gas, it's 100% on electric, but if you can't afford to do the whole thing, or even if you can afford to do solar, it's like, well then, your shingles only can be so old. So it's a lot to invest in the infrastructure to do heat pump, new roof, and solar panels, like in one fell swoop. I mean, that's just, so what prevents you from taking action? If you go partway there like I did, you actually end up temporarily worse off financially,
To just kind of build on that exact thing and sort of what Brenda was kind of alluding to earlier when we were talking about buildings, and I think this would be like a big issue in a lot of communities, like I'm thinking like Michigan City. So like my house is 130 years old, and I wanted to electrify my kitchen as I was doing a kitchen renovation. So all of my really amazing electric appliances that I bought, my induction cooktop and all that, are sitting in my garage because I only have 100 amp service coming to my house. My husband had warned me about, but I bought them anyway. So, but now I have to like upgrade my whole electrical panel and like do all of these things so that I can install my damn appliances that I bought. And I think that's a big thing when you have really old housing stock in a community. Like, it's expensive. Getting an electrician to even like return your call to come and do it, even if you have the money, it's so. I think it's a huge problem, like switching from like say natural gas to electric appliances.
Any other thoughts before we move on to our next? Yes.
Yes. So I would like to address the statement about having a balanced approach with, solar is just very expensive. I was at a NIPSCO meeting. This was before the pandemic, maybe 2018, 2019. It was at Fair Oaks Farm, and they had a big presentation that they were giving with their consultants that came from Boston and did a survey and a research report about, what is the way that they can save the money the most for the corporation. And in every scenario, the Boston Research Company found that going solar was cheaper for NIPSCO than any other scenario. So for example, the coal industry asked the consultants to actually factor in or factor out the environmental compliance that they had to, implement for their coal companies. Even with like the environmental regulations taken out, renewables were cheaper for NIPSCO to go with, and that's what caused NIPSCO. It was a big article in the paper. They were going to go 100% renewable, solar and wind power, until suddenly I heard that they were building a big natural gas plant in their wheat field facility. Something happened there in between the time that this report came out, and in every scenario, renewables were cheaper for them to run. And then the time that they decided, they would have a big natural gas plant. So, I think we need to really look at the reports and the research that's being done, and really understand what the reasons are for going away from renewables. I'm not sure. I don't think it's because the balance isn't right. I think if we're going to save our planet, I hate to be dramatic about it, I think we're going to have to go to renewables.
I think they found.
Nancy has
I do have an answer to that, because I know people that work at NIPSCO at the highest executive level, union president, or whatever, so I do believe my information is accurate.
Sure.
And from what I heard is they have to be able to provide electricity upon demand. And where we're at right now with the renewables is you really don't have the storage capacity of large batteries or large battery fields or whatever to keep it and then send it out when it's needed. So the natural gas is important just so during those peak times, they're able to level out the electricity that's being provided. They can't let the factories go down, along the lakeshore. I know that's, an obvious thing. You bring a factory down, it takes a day or two to bring the whole thing up. So they've lost days of productivity because of that. So I think as time goes on and battery technology becomes better, then it becomes possible to get on a 100% renewable track. The only thing I'm very concerned about is with Governor Braun. He's come on board saying that we need to forget about renewables and we just need to begin building these new nuclear power plants again. So I think from a public policy perspective, I think that's a more dangerous thing that's happening within the environment in Indiana.
I might say the Navy's had small nuclear modular reactors in their submarines since the 50s, and there have been, I believe, 0 accidents. It's something that you have to be very aware of, and it takes intense maintenance. But I think that's probably one of the directions we probably will see things going.
I also want to know what do they do with the nuclear waste? Where would they put it?
Well, what do they do with those big windmills and the solar panels and all the things that happen? I mean, with each technology, there's issues. So I think we're in a process of learning, the constant learning process, but I don't think there's any simple solution to it. And I don't know what the magic bullet is, and I think we have to keep looking at what works, and what makes it available for us to do the things that people want to do in their life.
The small nuclear reactors that are in the submarines, they're not large enough to take care of what major public utilities need to do. And The waste, right now it's stored on site at each of those nuclear power plants. And hopefully they're storing it correctly, but I've been told they're putting it in metal containers. And they're not enclosing that in concrete like they should be. So the whole country doesn't have a way to deal with nuclear byproducts. So to me, it seems extremely dangerous if we're moving ahead with that, and we don't have a plan what to do with that. And I don't think I need to mention Fukushima and other places that have had major nuclear accidents recently, and I'll call that a disaster because of climate change. That happened, okay? The tsunamis that came and took out the whole town of Fukushima and a lot of the area around there, and even affected Tokyo metropolitan area. So.
Any other thoughts before we move on to our next question? We just have a few more days. Okay, great discussion, guys. You're doing great. Next question, where are the opportunities in our community to better address the impacts of climate change? I think we've kind of touched on some of these. Examples, carpooling, educational campaigns, or financial incentives.
I mean, where they exist already, like where is one that we're just not taking advantage of, right? So, question, like where?
Yeah, I think whichever I'd like to state.
What did you say? I couldn't hear you.
I'm trying to get at, is she
Yeah.
asking us to identify where there are existing opportunities?
Really
or-
opportunities that could be, that we're either not maximizing or that we're not pursuing at all.
I think the one thing I've seen recently is for cities specifically is you have to transform the culture so it becomes more of a walking and biking culture. But before you can do that, you have to be sure you have the amenities that are available for people, like safe bike paths. We have some bike paths in Michigan City running north-south. And then we'll have the Singing Sands Trail, which is really far north along the lakeshore in Michigan City. But we don't have interconnecting anything to make that a real possibility for people actually to get on their bikes and go to work. The city has done a really great job with that is Valparaiso. So I would like to point them out as a community that has embraced that. Really they have bike paths everywhere. So that's something to consider.
I could add to that, in the rural area, that would be a major thing if we could get crossings at US 30, 130, where people could ride and walk without, as I call US 30, Frogger Highway. I don't know if you remember the game, but it's not it may be funny, but it's not funny. It's dangerous to cross those intersections where you don't have pedestrian opportunities. And I think there are things that can be done that are relatively cost effective, but we don't have those throughout the three counties. Yes?
I just want to throw out the negative Nancy thing, not you Nancy, but big Nancy, that the hotter it gets, the less likely we are to want to ride our bikes anywhere. So I think that we have to be realistic about how bike paths are a solution to the bigger potential of climate change, right? Impacts on transportation. But the reality of it is as it's I'm not riding my bike to work. I want to get there and be a sweaty, sticky armpit person and then have to go to a meeting, you know what I mean? So I think we need to be thinking about public transportation that is going to keep people comfortable on their way to work. Because I think bike paths are more and more going, and I'm this is somebody that likes to ride my bike, right? But are more and more going to be more people that are serious, cyclists and stuff like that are going to, because, who wants to ride their bike to the grocery store and walk in and then now you're freezing because the air conditioning is, I feel like we got to be really realistic about the potential of bike paths to help these problems. I don't know, they're at that.
If you're going a mile or two, I don't think that's really an issue.
If what?
If you're going a half a mile or two, I don't think that's really that much of an issue. But to get to school or to get to the different events, and not being able to cross a major road without having some access at some point for people, and it also for recreation.
Yeah.
I feel like a broken record, I bring this initiative up a lot, but one reason I'm so happy about the NWF Community Certification Program is their awareness about the benefits of native plants, and their carbon sinks, they help like filtrate the extreme rain events and recharge the water table. They clean, they host pollinators, they just do so many things. It's climate adjacent, but it's gardening, so it just seems like a really easy way to get the conversation started with neighbors or community project. So I keep going back to that. I don't want to stop there. It's obviously not going to fix everything, but I think an educational campaign about all the things that these amazing plants are actually doing, and changing weed ordinances to make it more normalized would be great.
So I'd like to, I think there's an opportunity in having a big recycling push. So in Highland, we have volunteers from our sustainability group that recycle at the festivals. We have a couple of festivals in town. And but it's really, so they've been doing it, I think, 3 years, and it's been harder and harder for them. Fewer volunteers sign up, and they're sort of running themselves ragged. And 5-day 4th of July festival and a 3-day or 2-day barbecue fest, and then there's a church festival they do. So there was an item grant, a recycling grant that was, I think, $10,000 to $500,000, and the deadline was just very recently. But we didn't know, we talked about, the way we're recycling right now is just not a sustainable way of doing it. It's just not going to keep up, we're just not going to be able to keep doing it. So if we could get a system in place where maybe county-wide or maybe region-wide, we don't have the expertise to fill out a grant application like that item required, but of course NERC does. And if we could figure out a way to implement better recycling, more recycling, say at this area, at the community festivals, that might be a program or a plan to pursue.
So this is a question of, LaPorte County and Porter County both have very active recycling programs for the whole county. So does Lake County have nothing like that?
No, they don't have any.
Okay, so that's a big missing.
Yeah, it's up to.
So that may be looking at the county level to get something started.
We did.
Yeah, we did already.
Well, we contacted the Lake County Waste Management people but we didn't get a good response from them. They didn't seem very interested. I don't know why.
Right.
Not to steal Michelle's thunder, but there's a community grant open for her recycling program that's due on Friday.
I was just pulling it up because I was
Friday,
like,
like
I know
tomorrow.
one of them
Yeah.
has a 30-page pamphlet that comes with it that will step you through it easily. And I know Raheem just stepped out, but he also would probably be a really good contact for you. And I'm just gonna put in a plug for an educational campaign while I'm at it. Partners for Clean Air, I know Reggie had mentioned it all adds up to Clean Air isn't a thing anymore. It actually transferred over to IDEM, so that is a program that we run. I know, George is part of it, Brian's a part of it, so we've got a group, and this past weekend alone, we were at the Railcats game on Sunday, raffled off a bike in Enning, as well as educating people on not only our air monitoring in the area, but things they can do on air quality action days.
And additionally, back on June 12th, there was 4 scholarships that were awarded at $2,500 each to 4 high school seniors. And this was during the Partners for Clean Air luncheon in Hammond at the Port Authority Arena. And representatives from different local companies received awards for their initiatives to reduce their carbon footprint as well.
The recycling grant, okay, does that go to the individual community or to the county solid waste districts?
It goes to the individual.
Okay.
Yeah, we have two different recycling grants, and I need to pull them up because I'm not in the recycling branch, so I don't necessarily know them 100%, but I can look them up here. They're due on the 8th, so for the community recycling grant.
But that one's more focused on community. The other one is more focused on business and larger projects. This one's more focused on community outreach, development, in association with other implementation factors.
Okay.
So.
While we're talking about all the cool stuff that IDEM does, we also have the Clean Community Program that as far as I know, I think up here, Maryville and Hobart might be the only two that are in that, but
No, I just had
Lake
two
Station.
others out there. There's two
Lake
more.
Station.
I think it's like Lake Station.
But it's an opportunity to get recognized for things that you're doing, networking with other communities that are doing projects, kind of like expand your projects. I mean, it's all voluntary, recognition based, but there's a lot of resources there with Missy. She does a really good job with that program, Missy Shaver. So,
And she'll come up, if you want to do that, we'll, MS4 will help bring it up too, and she will help you get going. I want to say, just went by another sign, Clean Community, what was that?
I know there's a couple that have old signs, but it was part of the old program, and those communities are not taking them down.
Michigan City's working on that right now.
has somebody? The last I heard, she can't get anyone to respond to her. So I would love.
She needs to, we can give her time at the next Sustainability Commission meeting. And the chair just contacted me about that.
Did Abby do that? Because
Yeah, Abby Mary just contacted me this week.
Okay.
So she can definitely come to the next Sustainability Commission meeting, which is on September. Is it September?
I'd probably recommend, Nancy, that that's probably not the avenue, unless that you guys want to hear about it in that format. But like because there's like an application, so it's kind of more like if you guys are interested, but if you want to have a presentation
Abby's
first.
been working on the application, it's just about completed. We need the commissioners to vote on it.
Yeah.
So it would be appropriate for Missy to come to the meeting because of that.
Okay. And I think it has to be signed by the mayor.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Mary Andrew can sign anything for me.
I think.
Go girl.
That we touch on the financial aspect. We need to increase financial incentives. We've touched on the expenses of going solar for a homeowner. If we can get maybe private entities to sponsor no interest or low interest loans, maybe we take some of the places like BT or US Steel or something that can sponsor these loans instead of buying carbon credits. But it's very expensive for a homeowner to do the roof improvements and things like that, to buy the storage batteries to go solar. And if we could have these this ability to help residents, I think more would go. So,
I apologize, I have to run.
That's okay.
I hate to drop this bomb on my way out, but I'm hoping we can consider the new, the Senate bill eliminating vehicle emissions testing, or proposed, and they're going through the process of studying it, just for discussion for you guys to think about. I don't know that I'm opposed to it, but I want to make sure that any benefit that we got from that isn't lost, and whether the state can fund, industrial emissions reduction, or Ryan can figure out plenty of ways to use money, I'm sure, to reduce. But what I don't want to see is that go away, and then that benefit we got from emissions testing just be lost in general. So, just for discussion, I guess, and for you guys to think about as they're going through that process, if that's something we want to either take a position on or not.
Do they have a time frame for the public comment?
I think that the Senate, well, you guys probably know more details about it, but I know that they're studying it now, right? They're looking at
Okay.
that bill was to order a study.
Yeah, it's like a year-long.
It's a year-long study, but that's just something that we should be thinking about as our committee too, I think. So, anyway, thank you, and I apologize for having to run, but Clerk Byer is going to take the share for me and finish up the meeting.
Oh, you've already set that up. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we set it up, and Jen will help too. The
Okay.
two gens will take it.
Okay, wonderful.
So, thank you guys. Have a great day.
Always lots of gens.
Thanks, Bill.
See you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Any other big thoughts on opportunities? Otherwise, we can move along. I know we're kind of a long meeting today.
I come from a small community, and so it's hard because there's like a lot of double-edged sword going on, and even in the bigger scope. But like, you know, we try to plant more trees, but then you have to have the manpower to take care of those trees. We're in a position right now with the last huge storm that came in. We had like half a tree come down, and then you have residents in the community that, you know, we send our street department along to cut up branches and things like that. Well, somebody had wrapped all their stuff in metal, and our guys didn't see it, so now it's new chipper time. And
I can't see your sign. Where are you from?
Schneider, the southernmost
Oh,
town
yeah.
in Lake County. So, you know, there's issues with that, and then in with that storm, our whole community is in a floodplain zone. So 4 inches of rain in an hour is pretty huge for us. So it's hard. We try little things, you know, getting people, you know, NEPSCO's program of changing things to LED. We try to, education is just huge for us. I mean, getting out there. We do little things like on Facebook, like, you know, trying to attract pollinators, like show me your garden, and it could be something small, like winning like a cup or something, and they have like virtual wheels, they can put people's names and spin for the winner, but just little stuff like that to get people to do little cool environmental things, you know. I think that's what we do.
Well, I'd like to move on. This is great feedback, guys. I'd like to move on so we can get you guys out of here. The last part of this is we have some prioritization workshops, worksheets, just to get your feedback on what are the biggest priorities. If you may have done the survey that was online, it's similar to that. But basically what we're doing here is linking each of these different options, drawing a line to link it to whether it's number 1 most important or number 7 least important. So I'd like to just pass those out and give you guys just about 10 minutes. We'll see if you guys need more time. So there are 3 themes in this: household budget, health and quality of life, and transportation options. Facilitator's guide said I could put on quiet, nice music for you guys to write some nice questions.
Not angry.
You really doing that? You really doing that?
Yeah.
I just don't see that.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. It was in my script, but.
Thank you.
You mentioned this is pre-programmed, and you're just using it. Who prepared this?
This was a consultant working for CMAP, Chicago Metropolitan.
Right, that doesn't really answer the question.
Oh,
The specific person, or?
I don't know that I can give you the
This is
specific.
biased.
Okay, well, I would love to hear that feedback, honestly, if you want to jot where it is.
The paragraphs, the introductory paragraphs are skewed to a certain direction.
Okay,
And then the responses that you fill in are influenced by that.
okay, I will note that to them. Thank you.
For example, the first line on each of the paragraphs is reducing greenhouse gas creates other benefits. It kind of skews
Okay.
what follows afterwards and your thought pattern.
Okay, I will definitely note that feedback to them. I can't give you a name of a specific person right now, but it was developed by the project team,
Right.
CMAP, with their consultant, which I believe is Hughes. I could
Yeah,
get
and-
more information to
And
follow up.
basically, usually they're supported by someone
Okay,
with other priorities.
okay,
Usually they're a nonprofit of some type.
okay,
And for example, if the utility were supporting them, you have it skewed in one direction.
okay,
If someone else is supporting them, it's skewed in the other direction. Because it's home gives feedback to the person funding it
okay,
that the funder wants to see.
yeah. Oh. That's my music.
Yeah, that's what happened.
coming from? Cape Oakland. 200 and some homes.
Yeah. For example, we're tying greenhouse gas to being able to find fresh food. See the strong connection there.
Okay.
And certainly, if you just look at CO2, the plants benefit from higher levels of CO2. And in the greenhouse environment, they'll pump extra CO2 to get the plants to grow more vigorously.
Okay.
In a greenhouse
Yeah,
environment.
no, I got you. I think it's maybe more of a lemon story.
And
But, you know,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to write up the notes for I'm still seeing some writing, so we'll give it a few more minutes. Oh, yeah. seeing a lot of pens go down, or people still want to take a couple more minutes? Okay, I'm seeing. Oh. I think most have wrapped up. Are we comfortable moving along with the meeting? Anyone is welcome to continue writing or to write more afterwards or speak to me afterwards. But I believe we can move on. Thank you guys. I know that was a long process, but I think we got some really great information and expertise on our communities in this room. With that, Jen, I believe you are.
So, thank you for all that information. The next item is project and program updates.
So can I steal the floor and then she might go real fast? I promise, if it's over 5 minutes.
Okay.
Good news or bad news first?
Bad.
Bad? I like that mindset, that's what I
Do you want me to move that?
Oh, I forgot my dongle. Okay, so we spent a lot of time talking about greenhouse gas emissions and CO2, correct? So, you see this? This happened last week in beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. And so, the good news from this is that Governor Braun, the Energy Secretary, and the Secretary from EPA, they all acknowledge that climate change is real and that it's man-made. Bad news is they are going back against the endangerment findings back in 2009 related to greenhouse gas emissions and CO2. How that affects the general American is yet to be determined, but a lot of it is going to be related back to the emission requirements related to both light duty, heavy duty vehicles, and other industries as it relates to this. So it's kind of like a step back. However, I do want you to realize that it's not, they're going to be holding a comment and public hearing. And so please voice your opinion coming up, and I can follow up with this to the group with the different links that are associated with it.
Can you hold that right there?
Yeah.
A lot of it is political. A lot of it is focused on the start-stop technology related to light-duty vehicles. The funny thing, where this press conference took place, I gave a presentation less than a year ago at the exact same location talking about heavy-duty electric and hydrogen trucks. Okay, just some recent announcements. Oh my gosh, this is Monday already. Monday, we announced the Go EVIN funding awards. The local projects are here. So we had 2 separate projects, direct current fast charging projects and level 2 projects. Over $3.3 million was announced for publicly accessible projects across the state of Indiana. The direct current fast charging is more on your critical fast charging needed for the highways and alternative fuel corridors. So we have pilot travel centers here in Lake Station. NERC was awarded, Porter County Convention Recreation and Visitors Commission, 2 car dealerships on Route 30 and Route 41, and the Viking Medical Center in Valparaiso. Recently announced was the Indiana Dieselwise funding. The projects that were located in the NERC area that we were associated with were the city of Whitings. They're moving to a propane garbage truck. And additionally, they're adding 2 more propane garbage trucks and a propane street sweeper as separate projects, so it's a pretty big deal. And then Dynamic Metal Recycling, they're a port company that is replacing old dirty diesel with a clean diesel drayage truck. Tesla wall charger donations. We have Tesla wall chargers and pedestals to donate to the local municipalities and nonprofits. If you are looking and are interested in this, please reach out to me. We can talk.
Where did those come from?
Those came from Tesla,
Oh, okay.
believe it or not.
Can you put some on the floor, please?
Where?
The floor.
Yeah, we got to talk to the mayor. I just want to reference a project that we recently had deployed with the city of Hobart. 2 Tesla universal wall connectors that were installed on April 10th, and the station is set to a fee of 35 cents per kilowatt. As of yesterday, the revenue generated through this was $1,657, and 4,873 kilowatts have been used over like the last 4 months, which is pretty good.
Ryan,
Yes,
in
ma'am.
one of those cars, what is the average then, go back to where you were, the average amount that a person would pay when they charge their vehicle?
It's going to depend on how long they're going to be there.
Okay.
So if they're going to be there for basically 7 kilowatts an hour, so if they're going to be there for a couple hours, it's going to be, I don't know.
Okay, 7 kilowatts.
Yep.
How much does that give an electric vehicle?
7 kilowatts is equivalent to about 28, 30 miles.
Okay. The reason I ask is this came up with the toll road.
Yes.
And the new units that the toll road is putting in.
Mhm.
And someone asked if you're driving on the toll road and you have to stop and charge, how many miles for how long and that type of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So like what they have on the toll road is the fast chargers,
Right.
the DC-FC direct current fast chargers. Those are going to be charging around 250 kilowatts per hour.
Oh, wow.
So you're only going to need about 10 to 20 minutes in order to get to 80%. But that 10 to 20 minutes is going to be able to provide 200, 250 miles
Oh,
of
wow.
range.
Okay.
So that's the critical infrastructure along the corridors. You stop and charge for a little bit, you go use the bathroom, buy something to eat or drink, come back, your car is charged to 80%. You're good to go to grandma's house in Ohio or whatever.
Is that for all electric vehicles or for Tesla vehicles that are plugged into the Tesla chargers?
So they're getting to the point where they're universal. The average capacity of the 2025 model year electric vehicle is about 86 kilowatts. So 86 kilowatts is going to be about like 300, 320 miles of range. So they're getting better, and the other OEMs outside of Tesla are getting bigger in battery ranges. There was a study that was just done with a Chevy electric Silverado. They got 1,000 miles off of one charge.
Wow.
So it's getting better and better.
And, yeah, my concern was, for example, the connectors are not all identical depending on the model year and the manufacturer, and they're going to a universal charger
Yes.
in the future. But
Yes.
the ones that already exist.
There are
Maybe not.
adapters, and
Yeah.
the vehicle that you see us drive right around here all the way across.
And some vehicles have limits on how much charge they can accept.
That's correct.
The charger can deliver at a much higher rate than the vehicle can accept, so the time depends on which vehicle do you have and what kind of charger
That's
it's going
correct.
into.
So like the base amount is about 150 kilowatts for fast charging, but there's other EVs that can accept a higher rate. But that 150 kilowatts in an hour, it's going to get you, that's still going to be 20, 30 minutes to get you to 80%.
One vehicle, 80 kilowatts, $30. Is 80 a normal load for a car?
That's like the average kilowatt capacity of an electric vehicle. But if you're going to be charging there at 150 kilowatts, you're only going to be there for 20 to 30 minutes, and your cost is probably going to be if it's
$60.
60 times 30 cents.
A tank of gas would cost about the same.
At $18.
But we have moved, I drive an electric car, unless you're driving one like the old like generation, like Nissan Leafs or whatever, like we're beyond any of that. Like nobody's spending $60 on a charge, even
Right.
for some of the solar ones.
Right.
Nobody's spending 30 minutes there unless they're, I mean, it's just really like, we're past all that.
What
Like,
does that mean,
those
you're
are
past that?
It means we've sort of solved all those problems. There's
But the
really
technology is.
yeah,
Yes.
like all of the new electric vehicles, like they are charging fast enough. Like we've tipped, is what I'm saying. Like,
And so like we drive a 2022 Ford Mustang, we're able to charge at the Tesla charging stations and fast charge across the United States, I guess.
Yeah.
So
How many are working or functional?
the
Chargers?
fast chargers are good. It's the level 2 chargers that have been an issue. The fast chargers, because of the need for them, anytime we're talking about different funding related stuff, they have to require us 97% uptime efficiency. So 97% over 365 days in a year.
So those are cost prohibitive for your home, are they not? Level 2s are.
So I'm not going to lie.
Level 2s are $1,000, $1,500 to install or something like that.
but you don't need to charge that fast at home, right? So you it's like your cell phone.
Well,
You
yeah,
plug
I
in
know,
when you
but
go to
my
bed,
son's
and
got
then
'em,
you
my nephews have got them.
just go to bed, and then your car's charged in the morning.
Yeah, but if you have a 200 amp system in your house and you have people over and things like that, what issues come up with that?
As long as you're running like a 40 amp breaker to your charging station, that's going to allow you to charge overnight when you come home, and then when you wake up in the morning, assuming that you're
What
sleeping
about
for 10
all
hours,
the
8
other
hours.
power devices that you have in your house that are causing demand? If you have visitors coming over and you got a house full of people.
Well, you're not
I'm just
opening
wondering
up
about
your
volume.
charging station to the public to sell it to them, but
Yeah.
90%, greater than 90% of the charging is going to take place overnight at the home or a workplace, for example, at NERC where you have level 2 chargers at. And with that being said, the only time you're going to be needing to use a DC fast charger is during, interstate travel or long travel, say coming back and forth from Indianapolis, and we've made it back and forth from Indianapolis without needing to charge as well.
And the cost of the fast chargers is about double what the cost is.
It's about 38 cents per kilowatt, and then on the high end, it's probably about 52 cents per kilowatt.
When I fully charge my Tesla, it's about $17 for a full charge at a fast charger. I could pull up all my stats if you're curious. For the last year.
Is that for like, almost empty to full or half? I mean,
Yeah, you don't usually
I'm trying to make a relationship here between, costs.
Yeah, you usually do let it get pretty low.
Yeah.
You want to kind of keep it, and you don't charge above 80%. It's just how the batteries
Is
work.
that true on all batteries? Getting off the track, that's pretty much true for all batteries now. You don't want to go to 100%.
So you're not going to go to 100% when you're fast charging, but when you're either plugging into a 110 outlet like you see across the room or a level 2 charger, that's when you go to 100%. And so given the latest battery technology, and it depends from manufacturer to the other one, the lithium iron phosphate, those ones you want to charge 100% at least one time a week.
This is a great discussion, but I wonder if we can take
I'm sorry.
take the rest.
Happy
No,
to
it's
share
okay.
all of my Tesla stats with you if you want at
But
another
maybe we
time.
can kind of take it.
I can't believe you have a Tesla. I'm already trying to get over that.
Oh my
Got it for a year.
Yeah.
But I want to say something else.
In my neighborhood, most people have them, but
We're going to be having a National Drive Electric Week month event here on September 18th after the Executive Commission meeting. We're going to be doing a presentation talking about the different costs associated. Spoiler, gas needs to be at 96 cents per gallon in order to be cost efficient with electric, just generally speaking. But with that being said, we are going to be having a ride and drive outside, and then we're going to be having a quick presentation, like 30 minutes, talking about electric vehicles.
anybody has
different
done
projects.
fun.
Do you know anything about the units that are on Indian Boundary Road in Chesterton? There's like
Yeah.
8
I
of
use
them.
those. I use them all the time.
Are those ones or twos?
They're fast.
They're DC fast, so they're 3.
Okay.
So they're level 3 chargers.
Because there are people that put their cars there overnight.
Yes, and they're paying for it. The other thing is there's going to be some clean diesel funding coming up through the Indiana Clean Diesel Coalition, and we have about $10 million that's going to be available. Requests for projects should be coming out here this month or next month. We'll have about 60 to 90 days to submit a project, but there's going to be some good funding opportunities if you're interested in that.
There is another question about the availability of the charger. If somebody's leaving it there all night, how can somebody else use it if it's being occupied?
There's fees associated if they're idling and not currently charging. So there's idle fees if you're staying at a fast charger plug. If you're past 80%, and it could be like $5 a minute.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking if I'm needing a charge and somebody's blocking that charger.
Yes,
my option.
So they're going to be paying for it.
I know. I need a charge.
Right. But at majority of these different locations, there's a minimum of 4 to 12 charging ports so that you can access those.
I think there's 8 in Chesterton behind that.
Tesla also tells you which ones are occupied, and if they are on if they stay beyond their full charge, Tesla just starts charging them for. There's an idling fee for that. You can't just.
They get fined, essentially.
Just get charged. Yeah. Yep.
I
Exactly.
wonder if this is great
Sorry, Jen.
discussion. No, it's okay. This is great discussion, but I realize our meeting's gone very late. I would propose.
Yeah. Well, that's
Ryan,
right.
are you available after the meeting if there are additional questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think the public in general needs to know things like, these simple questions that we're asking now. Because a lot of people have the same idea that they had 10 years ago, and it probably goes with a lot of other technology issues too. So, that's...
I think that's why, like, Ryan's group does a lot of those, like, he tries to show up at a lot of the Earth Day things, and, like, they're always there at the table, and, like, 10 different vehicles or whatever that people can try that are not just Teslas. I realize there are other ones, right?
Yeah, I've been there.
But Ryan does an awesome job, and I would say that probably any event you would go to, right? If people wanted you to come in.
Yeah, so we have like 6 events coming up with ride and drive events across the state.
I like going and riding.
But then also all those questions, you know what I mean? Like, how does this actually work? What adapter is on this one? How long does it take to charge this one? I mean, Ryan knows all of that.
But we probably know as much as a lot of people, but there's a lot of people that just block it out. They don't even want to learn. So that's some of the things that I'm concerned about is how do we get people the information so that they find out what the current information
That
is.
gets back
And
to
how they,
education.
and how they can relate to how much it cost me for a fossil fuel versus a Well, electric is still fossil fuel, I guess you might say.
So I have studies and I've done the math on it to figure that out.
But it needs to be something that's marketable, you know, like something that people can get right away because they want instant gratification.
Okay, so over 5 years, you're gonna save $16,000 compared to a Tesla Model Y versus a Chevy Silverado, which is the most bought vehicle in 2024 in India.
Yeah.
So you gotta make sure that the message is relevant to your audience. So do you wanna talk about climate change? Do you wanna talk about money? And usually money usually gets.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's concerned about money, especially with all the increases that we've experienced in the last several years.
Absolutely.
Ryan, if you'll be available, I'm sure.
I'll be hanging out here.
Anything else?
Nope. And in
Okay.
conclusion,
Looks like the next meeting we have here, November 6th at 10 a.m.
I'm sorry, can I just throw an announcement that I got via text? That was somebody that was online. Mallory Medellin, who's at IDEM, wants everyone who is in Porter County to be aware of some countywide comprehensive planning processes that are happening in Porter County. There's a survey up, it's elevateportercounty.com. And I'm not exactly sure what is happening there, but I know it's like, I don't know if it's updating a countywide plan, but she says if you're in Porter County, please go to elevateportercounty.com and weigh in on some of the planning processes that are happening there.
Taylor, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about skipping that one. Any
No,
other
sorry.
announcements? Okay, then we have the meeting in November 6th at 10 a.m.
I believe so.
Okay. And with nothing else, entertain a motion. Second.
oh, of course.
All right, adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. I'll take your surveys. Thank you for taking the time to do that.
Yeah, good to see you, as always. And, yeah, that's all that. Yeah. No, but it's not.